Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are really submerging ourselves into a pretty incredible story from marine conservation history. We're looking at the rescue, the intense rehab, and the release of JJ, the gray whale calf.
Yeah, it's a landmark case, really. Happened over, what, 20 years ago now?
That's right. And it kind of set a benchmark. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's unpack this. Our mission here is to figure out how this near-dead baby whale became, well, such a symbol of hope and conservation. And maybe what her whole story tells us about, our complicated relationship with whales and dolphins, cetaceans.
Exactly. And it's really crucial to set the stage first. JJ wasn't actually the first gray whale calf kept by humans. She was the third. The first two, Gigi and Gigi the second, and their stories are, well, they're pretty tough, often tragic.
Okay.
And understanding them is key to seeing why JJ was so different, so revolutionary, really.
Right. So let's start there. Because those earlier attempts back in the 60s and 70s, they faced huge problems, didn't they? Often right from the start, from the capture.
Oh, absolutely. The history is quite sobering, honestly. The first one, Gigi, was captured back in February 65. This was down in Scammons Lagoon, Baja California. SeaWorld staff were involved, and get this, they actually hired a Japanese whale gunner to help out.
A whale gunner. Seriously. That doesn't sound like a gentle approach. What happened?
Well, it wasn't gentle. The calf, a female, she was harpooned during the capture. There were some reports she did okay for a few months, but she died that same April.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the sources point to lung collapse, atelectasis, and pneumonia, and that was directly linked back to the harpoon wound she got during capture.
Wow. Just tragic. A terrible start.
It really was a very short, very sad experiment.
So, okay, that was the first attempt. Deliberate injury, death. Did they learn anything for the second time around with Gigi the second?
You'd hope so, but
Yeah.
maybe not enough. Gigi II was captured 6 years later, March 71. Again, a young calf, maybe 2 months old, from the same place, Scammons Lagoon. And the capture itself sounds incredibly traumatic. The mother whale apparently became frantic, attacked the boat repeatedly before she finally swam away. Just heartbreaking to imagine.
God, yeah. So they got Gigi the second back to San Diego.
They did, and she was put in this tank, about 200,000 liters, which sounds
Wow.
like a lot, but for a growing gray whale, maybe not so much.
Right. And these animals grow incredibly fast, don't they?
Yeah.
What were the challenges with keeping her?
The scale was just immense. Gigi II was putting on nearly 200 kilograms. That's, what, over 440 pounds
Bro.
every single month?
Wow.
Yeah, and the cost, even then, was pretty steep. $200 a day just for her food.
That's huge for the early 70s.
Exactly. So her rapid growth, it was probably the main reason they decided, okay, we have to release her, which they did March 13th, 1972.
Did they track her? Do we
Yeah.
know what happened?
They tried. She was freeze-branded and tagged when they let her go. But the sources we looked at say her fate is basically unknown. No real confirmation she survived long-term.
Okay, so that really sets the scene. One tragic death, one release with an unknown outcome,
Yeah.
both showing just how incredibly difficult, maybe impossible it was to keep these baleen whales long-term.
Exactly. Impractical, dangerous for the animal.
Right. So now let's jump forward.
All right.
25 years later, 1997. And then JJ arrives on the scene. This time, it's a rescue, right? A
Yeah.
totally different situation. Yeah, JJ was found in January 97 off Marina del Rey in L.A. Just days old, they estimated. And she was in terrible shape. Semi-comatose, really dehydrated, covered in whale ice cuts, ulcers, just barely alive.
She was about 4.2 meters long, weighed around 758 kilos. Prognosis was really poor initially.
She needed help, fast,
Yeah.
specialized care, which kind of ironically led to a big controversy right at the start, didn't it?
It did. This is where it gets really interesting.
The group on site, Marine Animal Rescue, MAR, they'd spent 2 days looking for the mother. No luck. She was gone. So they called SeaWorld for help, thinking, they have the facilities. And SeaWorld initially refused.
That's right. They initially said no, which, as you can imagine, caused an immediate uproar. Huge public pressure, media attention.
I bet.
So SeaWorld eventually had to negotiate. They agreed to take her, but they insisted MA had to get the calf to them, down in San Diego.
Which is like a 3-hour drive, right, with a very sick, very large baby whale.
Exactly. A huge ask.
So Meme suddenly had to figure out emergency whale transport. And this is where the community stepped up.
Amazingly so. Beachgoers, local people, the Coast Guard, Even the LAPD, there were some U.S. attorneys just there who pitched in too.
No way.
Yeah, they all worked together, managed to get JJ into this big padded sling, lift her into a 24-foot U-Haul truck,
Fuck you, Paul.
a U-Haul, and then drove her down the highway to San Diego with the California Highway Patrol escort. Just an incredible grassroots effort.
That's an amazing picture. So she gets to SeaWorld, she gets her name, JJ, in memory of Judy Jones, a marine mammal advocate.
Correct. And then the critical care starts. I mean, she was so weak, staff literally had to hold her upright in the pool 24/7 at first, just to stop her from drowning.
Wow. Just physically hold it.
Physically hold her, while also giving her fluids, trying to correct the severe electrolyte imbalance she had.
Okay, so stabilizing her was the first hurdle.
Right.
But then feeding her. How do you feed a baby gray whale without mom's milk? That seems like a monumental challenge.
It was. They had to basically invent a formula,
Wow.
completely from scratch.
What about that?
Well, the team came up with this highly fortified mix. One person described it as looking kind of like pancake batter.
Shitting batter, okay.
Yeah. It was this blend of like ground up fish, powdered milk, water, loads of vitamins, minerals, trying to mimic that super high fat, high protein whale milk.
And the amount she must have needed.
Oh, staggering. She eventually learned to drink it from a hose fed from these 5-gallon buckets.
And as she got bigger,
She moved on to solid food pretty quickly. And get this, at her peak, she was eating 33 buckets of food a day. That's roughly 860 pounds daily.
860 pounds every single day. That's mind-boggling.
Totally. And it worked. She was gaining, on average, about 50 pounds every day.
50 pounds a day.
Yeah. So the focus shifted, right? From keep her alive to get her strong enough to go back to the wild.
Which brings us to the rehab phase. How long was she actually there?
She was in their care for 14 months total. By the end, she weighed a pretty hefty 19,000 pounds.
Wow. And the goal was always release. I mean, was there debate about keeping her for research or something?
There was some debate, yeah. They actually held a scientific workshop in June '97 to discuss it. Some people argued, look, she's an invaluable opportunity to study baleen whales up close.
Makes sense from a purely scientific view, maybe.
Perhaps. But the consensus ultimately was clear. The main goal here was conservation, successful reintroduction. So they aimed to release her in the spring of '98 to time it with the northward migration of other gray whales. Give her the best shot at joining a pod.
Okay, so how do you prepare a 19,000-pound whale raised in a pool on pancake batter and fish buckets to survive in the ocean? Especially the feeding part. Wild gray whales feed off the bottom, right? Sifting mud.
Right. That was a key step. They started putting her food on the floor of the pool, kind of forcing her to forage down there.
Did it work?
Apparently, yes. The team reported her, quote, internal instincts kicked in. She started figuring out how to feed off the bottom.
That's amazing.
Yeah. They also recorded her own clicks and calls, her vocalizations, and they played recordings of wild gray whale sounds back to her, trying to get her used to the social soundscape out there.
Preparing her for whale society. Okay, so release day arrives, March 1998, off Point Loma in San Diego. What was the plan for tracking her? Did they expect to follow her long term?
That was absolutely the plan. They put 2 satellite transmitters on her, designed to last up to 18 months.
Okay, great. So we got lots of data.
Well, no. Unfortunately, that part didn't quite work out.
Oh.
Both transmitters fell off, like, within the first couple of days. They actually recovered them from the water.
Oh, wow. So all that effort.
Mm-hmm.
Did they get any confirmation it worked? That she was okay after release?
They did get some crucial short-term confirmation, thankfully. Scientists followed her visually from a boat for about 48 hours straight after the release.
Okay, and what did they see?
They reported she showed natural and anticipated behaviors. So she was doing deep dives, she was vocalizing, she was even spy hopping.
Spy hopping? That thing where they poked their head straight up out of the water?
Exactly that. Taking a look around, she was swimming steadily too, about 2 to 3 knots, covered over 20 miles in those first 2 days. Looked strong.
That's good, a positive sign.
Definitely. But after those 48 hours, they lost track of her. And as far as the sources say, she's never been reliably identified since.
Right, so successful release. She seemed okay initially, but then vanished back into the ocean.
Pretty much. A return to the wild.
Which is, I guess, the goal. But her story, it's not just about the success of the rescue, is it? The sources also use it to talk about why release is so important, why long-term captivity doesn't really work for these animals.
Exactly right. When you hear conservationists say marine parks should focus only on rescue and rehab, not long-term display or exploitation. It's grounded in the biology of these animals. You just fundamentally cannot replicate the ocean environment, the space, the depth, the social structures in a tank. Their whole anatomy evolved for the wild.
And you see evidence of that incompatibility, right? Like the collapsed dorsal fins you often see in captive orcas. That's not normal, is it?
Not at all. That dorsal fin, it's important. Helps with stability, maybe temperature regulation, even identification. The sources are clear. A collapsed fin is almost always a result of captivity conditions. Not enough space to swim fast, not enough deep diving causing the right water pressure. Just lack of use weakens the cartilage.
And how common is it in wild orcas?
It's really rare, maybe 1 to 5%, and usually linked to injury or maybe very old age. Seeing it so often in captivity is a direct sign something's wrong with the environment.
JJ's story, then, is also about aiming to avoid those kinds of physical problems by getting her back to the ocean.
Precisely. It's not just about the physical body either. It's about the complex behaviors they need to learn and practice.
Behavior that are impossible to replicate in a tank.
Pretty much. Think about JJ needing to relearn bottom feeding. Or take those orcas off South Africa, the source mentioned, port and starboard.
Shark hunters.
Yeah, they figured out how to hunt great white sharks and only eat the liver, which is apparently super nutritious, like chocolate for them, the source said.
Wow.
That kind of specialized knowledge, often passed down generationally within a pod, you just can't teach that in captivity. It highlights why the ocean is where they belong. It's not evil behavior, it's natural survival.
So connecting JJ back to this wider picture, it really makes you appreciate the complexity and, frankly, the wonder of these animals in their natural habitat.
It really does. Celebrating JJ's release is celebrating that possibility, rewilding these incredible creatures. It makes you think of other natural marvels like Migaloo.
Ah, famous white humpback.
Exactly, the white fella. First seen in '91, he became this global icon just by being himself, migrating freely in the ocean. That's the kind of wonder we should protect, not confine.
You know, the source also mentioned dolphins that don't even have dorsal fins.
Oh, yeah, the
But
right whale dolphins, northern and southern species, they've evolved without one, totally streamlined. Apparently, they're incredibly fast swimmers because of it. Up to 40, 60 kilometers an hour. Just shows the amazing diversity out there.
So wrapping up our deep dive on JJ, the big takeaway seems clear. Her story showed what's possible. Intensive care, rehabilitation, release. It can work, even for these giants.
Yeah, it stands in such stark contrast to those earlier tragic attempts like Gigi. When the focus is purely on rescue and getting them back home, marine science can achieve amazing things.
JJ really proved that, didn't she? With enough effort, innovation, community support, reintroduction is possible.
It set a new standard, absolutely.
Okay, so that leaves us and you listening with maybe one final thought to chew on. JJ looks strong and healthy for those first 48 hours after release, swimming normally, behaving naturally. Then she disappeared, never confirmed sighted again. So when we put so much into a rescue like this, what's the real measure of success? Is it seeing her again years later? Or is success simply the act of returning her to the wild, letting her vanish back into the ocean, free from our watch? What does success look like?